thanks for joining us this video. We are a little bit late. We missed one upload last week, but we did have an episode. We didn't have two videos last week, which is, I mean, fine.
It's what we used to do.
Yeah. But
usually, if you guys aren't aware of what we do on this channel, we are trying to upload at least 2 shows a week, and last week we only hit 1. It was our first week where it just didn't work out to record early enough. So, but we're gonna. Here's a new episode for you guys.
And just us not recording means that we're working on other things that could be bigger and better for this channel. So
yeah, definitely.
So what we want to talk about this week, you had this video. What is it? Darker Colors?
Yes. Okay. It's a short film called Darker Colors.
I guess,
and it just came out recently.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. So how did you find it first? Go ahead and let's talk about that.
If you want, I mean, you can hear us talk about it, but I'm gonna link I'm gonna put a link for the video in the description. So if you want to take a look at it after we talk about it, or maybe before, and then come back to us, you're welcome to do that. But I follow a page or a channel called Film Riot. You know about them. Yeah. And they had, the guys at Film Riot are friends with the director who made this short film called Darker Colors. And they came out with a movie or a video, I think today or yesterday. And they promoted it, a recommendation to watch. And so I watched their video, and then I went and watched this other short film, and I was just so incredibly impressed by everything about this film. I mean, the way it was contrived, the way it looked, the way it felt, everything was just beautiful. And so I kind of wanted to review it with you a little bit. I had you watch it this morning, and so
so my thoughts right off the bat. You've always been fascinated with like Steven Spielberg, like kid movies, to where they utilize kids to be in like a scary scenario or like thrilling. Or
I really like Stranger Things,
which is part of one of the rules of filming. It's to get someone interested in a character. Like, let's say you just start a movie and you kill them off instantly. Nobody's really gonna care because you don't know anything about that character. To the exception, so you usually have to like build background with that character, get to know them, to get any like emotions through that character. But the exception is a lot of times kids, like cute kids and stuff like that. So I feel like they definitely utilized that and had kids in it.
This story, you almost couldn't do anything different than that, because the whole premise was around a childhood's imagination, a childhood's creativity. And that was the whole premise of this film. And so I really enjoyed the scenario and the way they presented it. It's only about a little over 10 minutes long, so it's really worth watching for sure. So let me give a quick synopsis of the story, just so without giving too much away. Pretty much it's these 3 kids, 2 boys and 1 girl, and the girl is a sister to one of the boys, and they're just kind of friends. And there's like this pond that apparently, from what I understand from watching it, it kind of, brings certain things to life. Certain, it's like this magical river that kind of brings these drawings that this little girl had drawn in her book to life. And she's really fascinated with like childhood drawings and wanting to draw like monsters and such. But it's really cool because her character is very much like a little girl, but then she also draws like these spiders and this weird monster character and stuff. And so they pretty much, when she dropped her book into this pond, and these images, these things start coming to life, and her drawing book. And so they're pretty much going on this little adventure to try to, annihilate this one bigger monster that she had created.
Yeah, it definitely had, to me, like a Bridge to Terabithia feel.
Yeah, mixed with Stranger Things, kind of.
Yeah, it did. If you know Bridge to Terabithia, it's kind of like two kids who the one kid, he likes to create stories and draw, and they kind of have this imaginary place where they go, and it had that kind of feel to it. So what I thought of it, I thought it was really well. Like, I know I brought up that kids, it's very easy to get into the acting with kids because you kind of, for some reason, feel sympathetic to them. But I feel like the kids they acted great in it.
Yeah,
I mean,
they did.
For their age, they acted
and for
great.
this to be such a small independent film that just gets put up on YouTube, they casted these kids so well. I mean, they were such good actors.
Yeah, there's a lot of just kind of like independent short films that it's good quality and like the filming is cool and everything, but the actors, because they're not usually paying them, they're terrible. I mean,
and I wouldn't say the actors I've dealt with are terrible, but I have experienced subpar acting in the past with a couple individuals because they're volunteering their time. You can't fault them for that at all. But it's a case with a lot of independent films and low budget films. Not that this was an extremely low budget, but it definitely wasn't Hollywood style. And so it's really fascinating to see that this director, he was able to find kids and work with them enough to get them to act in such a genuine, exciting, and very compelling way.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like that was great, but to go to the special effects on the film, it definitely had like a very colorful feel to it.
And
but it was almost like the
name was darker colors, so they kind of had to,
Yeah, but it definitely felt like dark colors. It wasn't like light colors, like dark red, dark blue, dark green. I mean, but how they just like they put it in the color grading of the film. Yeah. To make it very colorful, but yet still seem like a normal picture. And how she was like drawing and stuff. Yeah. They utilized that. And then also there was a lot of like with the color, like puffs of smoke, different colors of smoke. I'm curious. I mean, you said there was a behind the scenes video for it. And I didn't watch that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you about it because it's fascinating. And again, we'll put a link for this video also in the description. Their behind the scenes was very interesting. Is it
digital or did they actually make colorful?
It is a mix.
Like
so
fog?
They did a lot of in-camera effects. So a lot of like the puffs of smoke and the different colors and stuff, like when they're fighting off the spiders, or the more crayon waxy colors that's dripping when they're burning the monster. Those are all in-camera effects. Those are all shot on scene. The creatures are obviously they designed them. They had actually a pretty experienced animator design these characters, and then they plugged it into After Effects 3D animator, and then they were able to manipulate it. From what I understand, they did all of the manipulation and creation inside of After Effects, which is really cool for creators like me and you who use the Adobe package and create stuff. So this really is inspiring for us to see what our capabilities are with this program.
Yeah, definitely.
And so they did that a lot with the 3D animator in After Effects, and that's all like a part of the Adobe package. But the in-camera effects, like the puffs of smoke that you saw, like when the kid steps on the spider and it disintegrates into like this puff of red smoke, that smoke was in camera, but the spider was not. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they spent a lot of time to make everything like with the colors in camera, and they use like this non-toxic powdered color stuff because they're working with kids. They don't want to harm them at all, which is obviously smart for any production. And but they just got a hold of it. They had like a guy who was dedicated to making sure that those colors were well done and making sure that those in-camera effects were done correctly. But
did they say what camera they shot on?
They used an Arri Alexa, I believe, which is kind of a bigger brand camera, which is like Hollywood style. And they might have used a red camera at some point, but I think predominantly they used an Arri Alexa. I'd have to watch the behind the scenes again to know for sure, but in passing they quickly mentioned their camera. So I remember them saying they used an Arri camera. And so that's big props to them to get their hands on something like that. Those are pretty expensive cameras, but worth it in the final product. You also mentioned about colors. They had said, since the word colors is in the title, it was very important that their color grading and everything they do with colors was very important, because that was kind of the driving subtext of the whole story. And so they did all their color correction in DaVinci, which I know is very popular. It's one of the most, right now, as of 2020, it's the most widely used and professional program for color correcting in the industry right now. Premiere Pro is kind of riding on the back end of that, was saying, okay, we're kind of coming up as the baseline editing software, but as far as color correcting, they did all theirs in DaVinci Resolve, because there's so many things you can do with that. So they did all their color correcting inside of DaVinci Resolve.
That it definitely had like really good color correcting. They definitely how they color corrected it. I mean, it's like they color corrected the video, and then they also added a lot of like colors that complemented their color correcting through the colors, through the darker colors that the drawings of things, through the colors that they used.
And I don't entirely know their process as far because I haven't used DaVinci yet. I've done most of my color correcting inside of Premiere, because although they're not as good as DaVinci, they are very high up in the ability to color correct your images. And so with DaVinci, really, again, I don't know their process, but a lot of it is, doing color correction in DaVinci and then going in and doing colors inside of Premiere or After Effects to match your effects. But I also noticed, I think on the behind the scenes, they showed like an uncolored version with the effects added. And so so I think they might have done it backwards to what you're saying for some shots, where they actually added all the effects in a very flat format and then went into DaVinci and did the final color correction. They didn't really specify how they did that, but it seemed like for the images they were showing in the video, that might have done it backwards. And that goes into a whole thing that I don't have any experience with, adding a bunch of effects and then color correcting. I'm usually doing it the opposite way. So that's interesting.
Yeah, just like creating the video and then color correcting it. And then the music, did they talk about at all what kind of music? It did have definitely a Stranger Things vibe.
They did not talk about that, but I would probably, my best guess would be, there's a lot of programs, like I use a program called Soundstripe that has royalty-free music that you're able to use for, commercial videos, for broadcast TV, for YouTube, without violating any copyright issues. And there's a lot of artists that get paid to create music and sell it to these programs. So my best guess, since this is a YouTube short film, my best guess would be that they probably got their royalty-free music from a platform like that, which would be cool to do some research and try to figure out maybe the artist that created those specific songs. And that's a very collaborative work to be able to take, say, someone across the world or, even locally that you don't even know, create a song and then be able to pull it from this platform that supports them, but also gives you a really cool soundtrack for your film,
Yeah. They definitely pulled a lot of resources together to make a really decent, good short film that's like less than 15 minutes.
Something interesting that that you might know, I believe in the behind the scenes, they mentioned that there was a guy who had worked a little bit on Star Wars, the Star Wars movies, to do their sound mixing. And so a lot of the sound effects that you hear in the movie, although if you focus on the sound effects with any film, a lot of times you might be like, okay, that's a little bit louder, or that's a little bit more of a punch than it would be in the real life. But when you're just casually watching, you're like, okay, it really brings me into the story, because sound mixing is so incredibly important, and they really got it good because they put a priority on this film. One thing I like about short films is that they're usually lower budget and they're short, so you can really pay a lot of attention to the shots you're using, to the way you're sound mixing, to the way you're color correcting. Creators like us who have done longer form short films, like an hour long, tend to flake a little bit on those kind of things because we're trying to put together a larger piece of work, and so you don't have as much time to really focus and make sure every little detail is really well thought out. That's something I'd like to, work on and be involved with, to really try to grow my skill, to really focus on making sure the details are really well in place before trying to tackle something really big. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely agree. There is sometimes where you have to compromise your shot a little bit to get what you want, if it's longer form, if you're biting off a little bit more than you can chew. Some of our films, we're still pretty new at making films and things. We've been doing it for a while, but not professionally, not color grading, sound effects, music, all this stuff. So
it's something that we all do ourselves, and so it's something that we're still learning while we do it.
So us trying to pick up a bigger project, we're learning stuff all the time. On the job, things that we're learning, a longer shoot, like several hours during the day, using actors that we've never used before, directing actors that we've never really worked with before. All that stuff ties into you're making the shot you want. And so us just analyzing this film and creating content ourselves, it just helps us to kind of pick up those small details and things that we can use in the future to make better films and to just become better filmmakers.
It's definitely an inspiration project that someone else created, because I believe what I've heard from Film Riot, that they're using this short film to help pitch a longer form either film or show or something to a network to be able to support it and fund it. So they're actually created this for a purpose to sell something bigger. And if they don't sell it, they still have a great short film to show for it. But something interesting, they did a lot of pre-production. They did a lot of work in post-production. But the actual production part of this was only 2.5 days of this short film. Because they had limited time working with kids, and so they had to kind of cater to their schedule. But also just because it's a shorter film, so they would probably film multiple scenes a day, which is a lot of work. You and I know if we're filming more than 2 scenes, it's a heavy day. You know what I mean? And so it's really an inspiration to say, okay, they worked hard in pre-production and during production to get what they needed in such a artistic, and getting exactly the shots they needed to look so good and to be so effective in such a short amount of time,
So go ahead and watch this film. Like we said, we'll put it in the description below. So watch it. Tell us what you think of it, and just enjoy a short film from someone who's trying to create something that to inspire people. That's
one other thing before.
That's what YouTube is. That's what they're trying to A lot of people, there's creators on YouTube just trying to do stuff to make money, but there's a lot of independent filmmakers that are trying to get their work out there and just do the art, create art that people would love. So,
yeah, the one other thing I wanted to mention before we close is because this story, like I mentioned, has colors in the title, really pay attention not just to like the paint colors and the things about the story that are kind of obvious, but look at the way they lit certain scenes. You'll see, and even the colors they used for certain scenes. You'll notice that the little girl seems to have like this confrontation with the color blue because her signature color is like a pink color. Not only did they give her parts of her outfit and her helmet and her gun, that her water gun was all pink colors, but even in a scene where the monster is kind of like doing this Jurassic Park / Stranger Things stalking, from a room and she's hiding, you'll notice they lit it in a way where her color pink, she's lit pink from a lighting standpoint, and the monster is lit in a bluer fashion because his color was drawn with a blue crayon. And so it really makes this controversy or this sort of battle between the color pink and the color blue with her character and this monster that she's created. It's really artistic, and it's kind of subtext a little bit, but it's also just a part of the art and part of the world of filmmaking that's very fascinating that people should pay attention to, because that's something that someone took time to artistically think of and took time on set to make sure that it looked that way.
Yeah. Well, that's this week's video. Don't forget to subscribe down below and give this video a like. And have a good
really
week.
Appreciate you guys subscribing, and we hope that you have a wonderful week. We'll see you in the next video.